There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've ever found yourself spinning on a ball of dirt, rock, and water, a blue, green, brown ball of dirt, rock, and water around a huge ball of nuclear fusion at 66,000 miles per hour, and thought about it and went, wow, I'm alive. And you look down and you see your hand, you go, wow, I have hands and an opposable thumb. You may have found yourself outside of the grid. Welcome to the show. This evening I have with me a very special guest, and we're going to debut some of his thoughts. My thoughts aren't always so nice. You'll kind of get either mad or insane with mine, but we're going to venture away from my thoughts this evening and go into the mind of Tommy Thompson Jr., Tommy R. Thompson Jr. He's a resident. He falls in line with that song it's my anthem. It's by Lane Staley. The Stoners, Junkies, and Freaks. Are you happy? I am man. Content and fully aware. Yeah. Well, anyway. Tommy's here this evening, and the first thing I want to do before we start with Tommy, we probably would have had another C here this evening, but we've recently had another guy who's been a part of the show from its inception, just as Tommy has. Donald Hensley, James Donald Hensley, passed away on the 13th of August, a couple weeks ago, and he had been struggling for a while, but he is now no longer here. We have lots of shows. You can look inside of the. You can go search the channel. You can see Donald Hensley. You can see the shows that he's done with us. I'm going to make sure that we publish some that we could never publish either, because Donald was kind of wild, man. Come on.com. But anyway, here today, we talk about the past, we can talk about the future, but the most important thing for us to explore is the here and the now. And the here and the now, it's Saturday. What is the date today?
31.
August the 31st, 2024. It's a Saturday. It's a beautiful Saturday. If you can see behind us here, it's raining. But here and now with my friend Tommy. And Tommy has had some interesting thoughts. But now the first thing that we kind of what started us off here, we started talking about a great thinker, Tesla. And I don't mean the owner of the current company, Tesla, but maybe even him too in some ways. But I'm not a fanboy. You may be a fanboy. I admire everybody equally until you piss me off, But we're going to talk about the original Tesla. That's where kind of our conversation that we're going to have today started. Was we were sitting around here and we were talking about, we had the phone plugged up to some wires, and man, it sure would be nice to have like a little switching station where you can tie everything together and charge it from a remote distance. Like, oh yeah, that's what Tesla want to do. And then both of us like, yeah, it's a great place for us to start. But now there was a challenge, and I'm gonna let Tommy fill this in. He was at the precipice, and then something happened. I'm gonna let Tommy talk about it for a minute.
All right. Yeah, Nikola Tesla was pretty sharp, and he was building a large tower, Wardenclyffe Tower, I believe it was called, and he was going to power people's homes remotely with the power of the earth. Has its own magnetic field, and he was going to borrow a little bit of that and just beam it to ships and planes and everywhere. And he didn't get to finish the tower for whatever reason, politics and whatnot, but he was close to trying to give people free electricity. And I think people didn't want that. They couldn't charge you for it, but he came pretty close to both communicating, wirelessly controlling ships, airplanes, empowering things. This was like 100 years ago. and he got shut down by whatever reason, and it must have been very traumatizing to him to have been shut down like that. But sucks.
Yeah, you got to keep it close. Yeah. Okay. So that's good. And I've heard lots of stories about him and like his papers. There was a lot of discussion about. I don't think this is even conspiracy realm here, but I mean, they really did shut this guy down. I mean, from what I understand. So here, you talk about it. If there is a conspiracy with it or whatever.
Well, all I know is that he had a sponsor that was kind of paying the bills, and he wasn't satisfied. Someone, this guy was paying to transmit a radio signal across the Atlantic. He's paying Tesla to do this for the first time, and someone else beat him to it. But he was using some of Tesla's inventions to do this. Later it turns out. So he got shut down for bullshit reasons because he wasn't the first to do it. His financier, that's all he wanted. Tesla was like, I'm not just going to talk to people across the ocean. I'm going to power and control ships on the ocean. He was way ahead of his time.
There was a movie.
And nobody understood what he was talking about.
There was a movie about him several years ago, wasn't it? Are you not familiar with the movie? But he had an island or something, and it was based upon some of his work. He had this. Okay, maybe that's not it. Go ahead and talk. Go ahead. I just had a question if you heard that movie.
Oh, I'm sure there's been lots of movies made about Tesla, and should be more.
Well, they just now into he kind of does.
Right. I don't have anything else going on. They're getting the Starship ready to catch it for the first time in history, catching a large spaceship to be reused. I mean, this is the real deal. Elon Musk, SpaceX colonizing Mars effort if the world doesn't collapse first through negligence. Humans being humans. Be a human.
Well, and he's fast forward. He's kind of the guy now that's he knows. I don't know if he's an engineer. I guess he is an engineer. He's a hell of an engineer. He's more of a tactician, more of a business guy because he knows how to get other people to do it through incentives and such. It's my opinion of Elon Musk. So he's in some ways like Tesla, but maybe a more sophisticated, modern version of Tesla. I don't know if that's a good way to characterize him or not. It is interesting to me that he took on that persona, and that he took on the name of the company. One of his flagship companies is Tesla. So it's interesting he'd take that on. And from what I understand about him, he wants to colonize Mars. That's the ultimate thing with the Cybertruck, with the vehicles that are electric. Everything is so that it can operate on Mars. Basically, if you look at everything that's there, and then he's been doing these. He's been. This is interesting too. He came to this planet. I don't know what that means, Mr. Barfield, but he came to this planet and he started distributing satellites everywhere. They're everywhere. And I'm sure that whenever you go to Mars after Elon or his progeny, which is a vast number of very weird named kids, whenever they get to Mars, then they're probably going to put those satellites everywhere. And they're going to have those Cybertrucks, and they're going to have whatever kind of underground tunnel shit that he's working on over there, I'm sure. But now Tommy's been helping him out. Tommy's maybe too discreet or too discerning to talk with you about it. But Tommy has created has helped them solve a few problems. And I bet you that Tommy's probably not the only one. These people have, Elon is very serious about this. He probably knows how unstable things are. And he's probably doing everything he can to get his ass off this planet as soon as he can. So he's probably doing everything he can to get there. So, Tommy has been, and again, Tommy and other people have been, giving them ideas, publicly posting ideas to it, and has actually seen some of those things come to fruition. I'm going to let Tommy explain that to you. You want to explain what you've contributed to it, or no? Or you,
Really?
or you don't? Okay. Some people, again, a lot of people that are of this mind, they don't want to go into it. But I'll tell you this: it's a very integral part of it. It has been implemented. I've actually seen it. I've actually seen heard Tommy talking about it years before and all that kind of business. And it's been interesting to see that. But then, I've actually done some research, and if you Google it, SpaceX has actually grabbed lots and lots of ideas out there. No. One thing that I've learned, as a local historian, which I spent a lot of time creating art about local history and redoing it, about ancient history here and such, even just history. And what I found is that, I try to give attribution to everybody. Whenever I use someone's work, I have at the bottom of it at least a PS, even though that's not some kind of a APA associated American Psychological Association's approved method of writing a paper. At least it gives credit where credit is due. That's what I'm thinking about anyway. What do you think?
All I can say that I'm sure of is that I came up with the idea to catch the ship. I gave the idea to SpaceX, or that's what I was trying to do when I sent them a simple Facebook post that said, move the shock absorbing structure to the pad instead of collapsible legs on the ship. Move all of the mechanics of the crush legs to the pad. And then I said you might want to catch it too. And I'll be dang if they didn't think that was a good idea. And they're about ready to catch a spaceship doing that. And I'm pretty excited about that. And I hope it works. It may not work.
Well, so they're about to find out. They're about to test your hypotheses.
Find out what I casually mentioned on a Facebook post to replace the landing legs on the spaceship, move that to the ground.
Characterize it for us.
You're talking about catching the spaceship?
How they're doing, how you thought, now you just gave them the inspiration to get to where they're at, didn't you?
Right. I didn't come up with the current technique. The tower, I didn't come up with completely removing the legs. That somebody else came up with that. I didn't come up with the chopsticks to catch it. I just came up with the idea to move the mechanics from the ship to the ground to save weight and rapid turnaround and self-leveling. Ta-da! You're welcome.
Thank you very much, SpaceX. Elon, we appreciate you using the Tommy's idea there.
They're about to do it.
They're about to do it, baby. They're about to do it, and there's a lot of people excited about this because really, this thing that's happening here. I mean, it's about to get wild. I mean, this is not just I don't even know exactly what what they're going to be doing. They're taking a test flight, but the reality of it is that whenever these guys are doing a test flight, it's testing lots of things, and because it's just like a patch on your software or your hardware systems, whatever it is, your firmware, whatever it is. So it's kind of going to update a lot of different things at one time. And I mean, they're getting so very close to being able to do some really crazy things. I've heard about, they're getting once they get this thing to land back to where it started, and that's kind of where they're at now. Then this thing will be able to take off. Some of the first trips it can make is like making a very quick trip over to the other side of the world. In other words, you want to deliver something to China. Well, all you have to do is jump in this spaceship. It throws you up into an arc. You go straight up and you come straight back down and you land on the other side at your little GPS coordinated location, and it throws you down there very gently. And then when we saw the last test of this was this thing landed above the water. Now I don't think that it was all the way ready yet. I wouldn't have been wanted it to been aboard that particular ship, but it's getting closer and closer and closer. And they're refining things and refining things and refining things. But it's going to be real quick. I mean, it's going absolutely real quick. But now eventually, like you said, you can carry people and payloads and just a boom. You're taking like a 24-hour flight and it's going to be like an 8-hour turnaround. Something along those lines. So it's going to turn. It's going to 1/3 of the trip that it was taking is what this Starship is going to be able to do real quick. And then it's not just doing that. You're going to get this thing to go to Mars too. And of course, you got to be able to somehow you got to get your landing space to Mars. I've always questioned about how that's going to happen, but I'm sure that once they get the idea of it landing here, doing that, then they'll figure out something else. So you got to your work's not done. You got to figure out a way for it to land without having on Mars for the first time.
All right. The ship is in two parts. The booster pushes the spaceship up into space and then comes back and lands. It never goes farther than I don't know, 20 miles. I don't know. Anyway, it comes back and it lands. And it's caught by the armpits, basically, by these chopsticks. This gigantic robot designed to catch a spaceship that is landing as normal, except doesn't quite land. It just gets caught right before landing. It's the same, but all the mechanics and the weight of that effort is transferred to the ground instead of being carried with you as dead weight. So, and when you're landing on Mars, you're going to have to build the landing structure, and of course the spaceships will have to have legs until they build their own catch tower, which will take time, but it'll be worth it because after you have it built, you don't have to have the landing legs anymore. So that's an extra 2 tons of water, for example.
I'm guessing that they'll have some other kind of a space hog carry that stuff up there. Like I don't know if that particular maybe they'll just use that as the one and save it for a museum up there. Save that Starship for that. I don't know how they're going. And then once they have the thing set up, then they can just go back and forth.
Some of them will stay there as habitats where you just live in the spaceship. You can go out and do your business and come back. Well, you want to make Mars comfortable for us, which it's not. So ideally, you make it where you don't have to wear a spacesuit all the time outside, unless you're in a vehicle, which has got to be a pain in the butt after a while. But it would take a long time to make it like Earth, if not impossible. I suggested shielding the planet with a large solar space station that acts like an umbrella. Basically, it just shields the planet from. The planet Mars doesn't have an atmosphere because its magnetic field died, which protected it from the solar wind. So the solar wind blasts off any gases that are created on the surface of Mars, released through melting water. Mars has seasons.
I got a question. If you got stuff growing there like trees, could you rebuild the atmosphere without the metal? I did not realize it didn't have the magnetic field. So what's that going to do for building an atmosphere if there is a way forward of that?
Well, if you were a magician, you could just restart the magnetic field, but dear Lord, I mean, where do you start? You need some magic going on there, but I'm not saying you couldn't do it. I'm just saying that, damn. Well, that's where my idea came in. Instead of a magnetic field from the planet, you make an artificial one with satellites that does the same thing.
Maybe that's what we just get through talking about. When he has those. You see this? So one of the things that we just talked about was one of the first things that he's going to do is because he's doing it on Earth right now, is putting these satellites that distribute internet everywhere. So when he lands there, he's probably going to start distributing these things. Why? More for multiple reasons. Most things have multiple reasons. Could it build a magnetic field with satellites that could hold a atmosphere?
As far as I know, that's what's going on right now, and somebody else is already doing it, and this is their matrix of satellites, as far as I know.
That's interesting. I got you. Anyway, so this has been another handy episode of Outside of the Grid. This is us testing the mic. We don't even know if this damn thing's working. We hope it is. We may do other shows for you eventually. Probably today, probably tomorrow, probably some other time. Anyway, time you want to find us, you can find us out here. Way out here. Way out here. Way past out there. Outside of the grid.
Cheers.
Cheerio, man. .com. Antonio said to tell you, everybody.com.